Hi, it's Cynthia McClary with I'm That Proverbs 31 Girl, and today I just want to talk to you about activating the flow of God in your life. And when I say activating the flow of God in your life, I'm talking about activating that thing that He has called you to do. Now, God has called so many of us, God has called each of us, not so many of us, He's called each of us to do a prepared work that has already been predestined for us to do, for us to complete. And here's the thing, like, God didn't just wake up yesterday and was like, hey, Sin, I just want you to do this. Or Doug, I want you to do this. Or, Ruthie, I want you to do. No, these are prepared works that He prepared. Excuse me, and let me back up. They're just not prepared works, but they are finished works that were prepared from the foundations of the world. And on another video or podcast, we'll get into that. But on today's video, I want to talk to you about activating that thing that God has called you to do, because God has called and assigned, prepared, just like set everything up for whatever it is that He has called you to do, no matter how big, how small. I'm going to step back and I'm going to say something right here. Okay. Whatever it is that God has called you to do, I don't care how it looks to you. I don't care how it looks to other people. But if God has called you to do something, that is a big thing. That is a huge thing. He called you to do it because He has placed every single thing inside of you that you need in order to accomplish that very thing. God never calls you to do something that He hasn't already prepared you for, already equipped you for, already called and chosen, and all of those things. So He's never going to call you or ask you to do anything that He hasn't already given you the potential to do. So if God has called you to do something, if God has asked you to do something, if God has instructed you to do something, please understand that whatever it is that He told you, He's already equipped you to complete the thing. He's already equipped you to do the thing. So this is how are you going to activate the flow of God in your life concerning that thing. And now, yes, please don't, I'm not tripping, because I'm human and I've been here as well. When God calls you to do something, sometimes it can be overwhelming, because it's like, what? Like, Lord, do you you know this is me, right? And God's like, yep, I know exactly who I'm talking to. God is not tripping. He has not lost His mind. He has not bumped His head. He knows exactly who He's talking to, and He's talking to you. So whatever it is that He has called you to do, whatever it is, no matter how big or small it looks to you, please understand, please trust and know and believe. There are just some things that you just have to trust God on. Okay? And that is something that you're just going to have to trust God on. If God called you to do it, if He placed it in your heart to do it, it's because you already have everything that you need in order to do it. Now, but how are you going to activate them? Oh, and I also wanted to make note of I also want to say this right here, because sometimes when God has called us to do a particular thing, we have a tendency to look at what He's called somebody else to do. Number one, please stay in your lane. And I say that with love. I say that with as much love and respect as I can say it. When God has called you to do something, please stay in your lane. Keep your eyes on the work that He has called you to do. What happens when we take our eyes off of what God has called us to do, and we begin looking at what He's called somebody else to do and how they're doing that thing that God has called them to do, what happens is that opens up this spirit of comparison. And that can breed, that can bring about so many other things. So whatever it is that God has called you to do, stay in your lane and do it however God has called you to do it. He hasn't called you to do it the way that he's called somebody else to do it. And if he did, then he has given you those instructions to do it just like whatever. But please stay in your lane. Keep your eyes on what he's called you to do. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. And then more importantly, well, I want to say as equally as important as not comparing yourself to someone else, please don't compare your assignment. Don't compare what God has called you to do to what God has called somebody else to do, because then we can get into that place of, well, oh, they got a bigger assignment, or, their assignment is in a better place, or this, that, and the other. And that right there, that is the attitude of ungratefulness. And do you know what? How many times are you like so eager to give to your children what they're asking for when they're displaying attitudes of ungratefulness? Just like I know, well, maybe you don't, but I know for myself, when it comes to my nieces and nephews, when it comes to people in general, ungratefulness closes up the hands, closes up the mouth. I mean, ungratefulness just closes stuff up. So now you can either take what God has given you and appreciate the gift, appreciate the assignment. Listen, God don't give out small things. I don't care how it looks in your eyes, but God don't give out small assignments. Even if your assignment is to be the person in class that sharpens everybody's pencil, trust and believe that is a huge assignment. Do you know that little job? See, I said that little job, because sometimes that's how we see the things that God has given us. We see it as little. But guess what? If you're not there to sharpen the pencils for everybody else, how are they going to get their assignments done? Do you understand that? You're the foundation of how they're going to get their assignment done. So even if your job is sharpening the pencils for everybody else in class so that they can do their work, without you sharpening the pencils, they're not going to be able to do their work. So that's how I want you to look at whatever it is that God has given you. Don't say, well, God has given somebody this huge assignment, but he's given me this small thing. It's not small. Stop looking at what God has given you as small. If your assignment in this earth is to raise your children in the knowledge of who God is, if that's your only assignment, train them up in the way that they should go, point them to God. Do you understand that your responsibility, your assignment of pointing your children in the way that they're to go, pointing them to God, okay, and laying that foundation, if they become the number one whatever, the best whatever in their lives, do you know where that foundation came from? That foundation came from you doing your job. So now they can't do what they're supposed to do if you don't do what you're supposed to do. So stop comparing. Stop comparing. But now, how do you activate that flow? How do you activate that flow? That flow, God has called you to do something. So now you know that there is something that you're supposed to do. But the question is, how do you activate that flow so that you can do what God has called you to do? Man, let me tell you, it is so simple. It is so simple. See, sometimes we complicate, and I can say this because I'm guilty of it. I've been guilty of it. Sometimes we complicate the things that God tells us. Sometimes we complicate it. And one of the biggest way that we complicate the instruction of God is by sitting down with ourselves, sitting down with other people, etc., 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 trying to figure out how. Number one, I think I did a post a couple months ago, I believe, that says, how is not your business. How to do the thing is how it's going to be done, how it's going to happen. That's not even your business. Stay in your lane. Take care of the business that pays you. God ain't paying you. God ain't paying you, and he's not instructing you to figure out how it's going to happen. Just like he didn't instruct the disciples. He didn't tell them, hey, figure out how we're going to turn the water into wine. No, he just told them, fill the pot. That's your instruction. Fill the pot. Just do what I told you to do. Don't worry about what I'm doing. The how part, the how it's going to happen, that's God's job. And see, sometimes we get out of line, we get out of place, and we start trying to do God's job. And he's like, see, didn't nobody, if you do the thing that I asked you to do, then you'll be doing the thing that I asked you to do. But I didn't ask you to try to figure it out. No, all I asked you to do was bake the pie or bake the cake or do whatever it is that he told you to do. Like, seriously, we have got to learn. And when I say we, I'm including myself. We got to learn to stay in our lane, stay in the lane that God has assigned us to, and mind the business that pays us. Because it was not the disciples, just like it was not the disciples' business to figure out, well, how is he going to turn water into wine? That was not their business. Now, had they spent their time trying to figure that out, they would have been wasting time. Just like we sit and waste time trying to figure out, well, how God going to do this? That ain't none of your business. Stop worrying about stuff that you don't even have to be worrying about. No. How do you activate the thing? How do you activate the flow of God in your life? Man, when I realized this, it's like, girl, you spent all this time and what? So here is how you activate the flow of God in your life. By simply doing the thing, start doing the thing that he told you to do. That's it. That's the answer. How do you activate the flow of God in your life concerning the thing that he has called you to do? Just start doing it. Just start doing it. Whatever it is that he called you to do, just start doing it. Whatever it is that he called you to do, just start doing it. Just start doing it. Remember, Mary told the disciples, she said, whatever he tells you to do, do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. So when you want to activate the flow of God in your life, the only thing that you have to do is just start doing the thing. It's as simple as that. We make it hard, but it's as simple as that, because the moment that you start to do whatever it is that God has called you to do, that is the moment that the ideas are going to begin to flow. That's the moment that the pieces are going to start coming together. But they don't come together. They don't start flowing until you start doing. And now, just because you start doing, that does not mean that the light bulb is going to click on and everything is going to become clear. No. But if you're wanting to activate the flow of God in your life concerning the thing that he has called you to do, then you got to first start to do the thing that he called you to do. So if God called you to, I don't know, if he called you to bake a cake, then one of the first, well, this may not be the first thing, but one of the things that you have to do is get the ingredients together that you need for the cake. So if that means you need to make a list and then go to the store, drive to the grocery store and pick up the things so that you can start preparing the cake, mixing everything up. And then once you get everything mixed up, then the next step, put the thing in the oven. Well, of course, you got to preheat preheat the oven and all that kind of stuff. But the point is, you've got to start doing the thing. And now, are you going to start doing the thing and still have questions? Yes. Are you going to start doing the thing and probably mess up? Yes. But that's not the point. The point is to start doing it. To start doing it. I think it's 2 Kings chapter 4. Remember the woman with the oil? Well, when did the oil start flowing? The oil did not start to flow until she began to pour. So there was a responsibility that she had. There was something that she had to take on. There was something that she had to do in order for the oil to start flowing. And now we know the word of God says that once it started flowing, it didn't even stop until every vessel that she had was already full. But before one vessel could even be full, she had to begin to pour. So she had to begin to do. And then if you also look in the New Testament with the 10 lepers, it says, as they went on their way, they were cleansed. They had to start doing something. They had to put action with their faith. So God told them to do something. And now in order for that thing to be done, they had to start doing it. The word of God says faith without works is dead. Well, you can't separate faith from doing. Faith and doing goes together. Faith and doing goes together. And so if you want to activate the flow of God in your life concerning whatever it is that God has called you to do, the first thing that you have to do is start doing. You have to do something. You have to do something. So if it's writing the book, take out your pen, your paper, or your laptop, or whatever it is, and start writing. But you have to do something. You have to do something. Now, and I'm going to say this because I've done this. Like, God says something and it's like, okay, so Cindy, like, are you waiting on me to literally come down and do the work for you? That's not how it happens. That's not what we do up in here. No, ma'am. You've got to put in the work. You've got to put in the work. You've got to do the thing. And how does God and anybody else know that you have faith in whatever it is that God has told you? By your actions. By your action. If God has told you to do something and you still sitting on your hands, not doing the thing, well, it might be a hard thing to hear, but you don't have faith for the thing. No, because faith is an action word. It involves action. It involves action. So if God has told you, if God has called you to do something, the quickest way and the easiest way, not just to get it done, but the quickest way and the easiest way to activate the flow of God in your life is to actually start doing it. Just start doing it. Whatever it is, start doing it. Start singing. Start whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, it could be the simplest thing, from the simplest thing to the most complex thing. Start doing it. Do you know what your doing actually does? Your doing actually proves to you, not just to other people and not just to God, but your doing actually proves to you that you trust God. Do you know why most of the time when God has called us to do something, we don't do it? Because we don't trust him. Let's be truthful. Let's be honest. Come on. Now, it may be more than just the two of us, but let's be truthful. Let's be honest. The reason we don't do what God calls us, the reason we don't do what God tells us to do, is because we don't trust God. We don't trust God. We scared. We fearful. We don't know how it's going to happen. And again, remember, that's none of your business. That's not your business. Your business is to do what he told you to do, not figure out how it's going to all come together. And see, a lot of times we get stuck right in that place trying to figure out, well, how is it all going to come together? That's none of your business. None of your business. If you take care of the business, that is your business, you'll find yourself doing more of what God has called you to do instead of trying to handle his business. So that's the missing thing. The missing thing in our life is the doing. And so we have to get up and we have to do. We have to start doing. It says, as they went on their way, the pieces started coming together. Their healing, their cleansing started coming together. As she was pouring the oil, that's when, the oil did not flow until she started to pour. But sometimes we sit up here and we're expecting the flow of God. We're expecting the flow, but baby girl, are you pouring? Pouring requires action. So the flow does not happen. The flow does not happen without action. The flow will never happen without action. And sometimes you just need to prove to yourself, listen, I have faith for this. And do you know how I'm going to demonstrate my faith? I'm going to demonstrate my faith by getting up and I'm going to start. I might not know where to start, but I'm going to start. I'm going to start. And I promise you, when you start, that's when the ideas, that's when the next step is revealed. And then you do that and the next one is revealed. And you do that and the next one is revealed. And then it's like, oh my goodness, I've done the thing. So I just want to encourage you, listen, get up and start doing whatever it is that God has instructed you to do. That is the only way that it's going to get done. That's the only way you're going to get the next step. Y'all might be like me, because listen, this is for me, and I feel y'all on this right here too. Because sometimes we want it all pretty and tied up, and we want to know step 1 through 10 before we start. But God says that's not how it works. No, you start, and I'll give you the next step, and I'll give you the next step, and the next step, and the next step, and the next step, and the next step. But you gotta start. You've got to start. You've got to start. You've got to start. Do something. Do something. Let your faith be evidenced by your work. Let your faith in God and in what he's called you to do, let it be evidenced by your work. Let your faith be evidenced by your work. Listen, do you know that it encourages you when you see your faith at work? Okay? You don't even have to look at somebody else's lane. It will encourage you when you see your own faith at work. Okay? So go and encourage yourself, get up, and start doing. Start doing. Start doing. Take the first step. Take the first step. Do the thing. Do the thing. Listen, I'm Cynthia. I'm That Proverbs 31 Girl. I encourage you all to subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook as well as Instagram. And listen, I'll see you all next time around.